Namaste and welcome to the second reading of Ramcharitmanas. We started a year-long journey last week by undertaking the reading of the Ramcharitmanas, and we said we'll do an hour a week right before Saturday evening Arati. And Sangeeta ji beautifully explained the first portion of the Balakand, and we'll continue reading through the Balakand. Today's section basically continues what Sangeeta ji had read last week, and it goes on with the prayers, the prostrations, the obeisances to the various sages, gods, and gurus. Today we'll continue that, and then we'll also read the portion of the Tulsi Das Ramayana where Tulsi Das ji talks about the power of the Ram Nam, the Bija Mantra, Ram. And then we'll get into a section where he also talks about the glory of the great story of Ram. Okay, we begin. I bow to the lotus feet of the sage Valmiki, who composed Ramayana, which, though containing an account of the demon Khara, a cousin of Ravana, is yet very soft and charming, and though faultless, is yet full of references to Dushana, another cousin of the demon king Ravana. I reverence all the four Vedas, barks as it were on the ocean of mundane existence, which never dream of weariness in singing the untarnished glory of Sri Rama, the chief of Raghus. I greet the dust on the feet of Brahma, the creator, one who has evolved the ocean of worldly existence, the birthplace of nectar, the moon, and the cow of plenty in the form of saints on the one hand, and of poison and wine in the form of the wicked on the other. Making obeisance to the feet of the gods, the Brahmanas, wise men, and the deities presiding over the 9 planets, I pray to them with joined palms. Be pleased to accomplish all my fair desires. Again, I bow to the goddess Saraswati and the celestial river Ganga, both of whom are holy and perform agreeable roles. The one, Ganga, wipes away sin through immersion and drought. The other, Saraswati, dispels ignorance through the recital and hearing of her glory. I adore the great Lord Shiva and his consort goddess Bhavani, Parvati, my preceptors and parents, friends of the forlorn and ever given to charity, servants, masters, and friends of Sita's Lord, and true benefactors of Tulsi Das in every way. Seeing the prevalence of the Kali age, Hara and Girija, that is Shiva and Parvati, evolved a string of spells in the tongues of savages, incoherent syllables which yield no interpretation and require no repetition, whose efficacy is patent, revealing Shiva's glory. The Lord of Uma, Parvati, favorable as he is to me, shall make this story of mine a source of blessings and joy. Thus invoking Lord Shiva and his consort, Parvati, and obtaining their favor, I relate the exploits of Sri Rama with a heart full of ardor. By Shiva's grace, my composition will shed its luster, even as a night shines in conjunction with the moon and the stars. Those who will fondly and intelligently recite or hear this story with attention will develop devotion to the feet of Sri Ram and, purged of the impurities of Kali, will obtain choice blessings. If Hara and Gauri, Lord Shiva and Parvati, are really propitious to me, even in dream, let all that I have said in glorification of this poetry of mine, written in a popular dialect, come out true. I reverence the exceedingly holy city of Ayodhya, Sri Ram's birthplace, and the river Sarayu flowing beside it, which wipes out the sins of the Kali age. Again, I bow to the men and women of the city, who enjoy the affection of the Lord in no small degree, even though they were damned as a result of the heap of sins incurred by the culminators of Sita, who were instrumental in bringing about her lifelong exile. They were lodged in a heavenly abode, having been divested of sorrow. I greet Kaushalya, the eldest queen of King Dashrath, whose glory stands diffused throughout the world. She is the eastern horizon, whence arose the lovely moon in the shape of the Lord of Raghus, who affords delight to the entire universe and is bringing as frost to lotuses in the form of the wicked. Recognizing King Dashrath, together with all his consorts and as incarnations of merit and fair blessings, I make obeisance to them in thought, word, and deed. Knowing me as a servant of your son, be gracious to me. The father and mothers of Sri Rama are the very perfection of glory, by creating whom even Brahma, the creator, has exalted himself. I adore the king of Ayodhya, who cherished such true love for the feet of Sri Ram, that he gave up his dear life as a mere straw the moment the Lord, who is compassionate to the poor, parted from him. I make obeisance to King Janaka, along with his family, who bore secret affection for the feet of Ram. Even though he had veiled it under the cloak of asceticism and luxury, it broke out the moment he saw Sri Ram. Of Sri Ram's brothers, I bow first of all to the feet of Bharat, whose self-discipline and religious austerity beggar description, and whose mind thirsts for the lotus feet of Sri Ram like a bee and never leaves their side. I reverence the lotus feet of Lakshmana, cool and charming and a source of delight to the devotee, whose renounce served as a staff for the spotless flag of Sri Ram's glory. He is no other than the thousand-headed serpent god Sesha, the cause or support of the universe, who came down to dispel the fear of the earth. May that son of Sumitra, an ocean of benevolence and a mine of virtues, be ever propitious to me. I adore the lotus feet of Shatrugna, that is the slayer of his foes, who is valiant yet amiable in disposition and a constant companion of Bharata. I supplicate Hanuman, the great hero, whose glory has been extolled by Sri Ram himself. I greet Hanuman, the son of the wind god, an embodiment of wisdom, who is fire as it were for the forest of the wicked, and in the abode of whose heart resides Sri Ram, equipped with a bow and arrow. The lord of monkeys Sugriva, the chief of bears Jambavan, the king of demons Vibhishana, and the host of other monkeys, beginning with Angad, I reverence the charming feet of all who attain Sri Ram, even though born in the lowest species. As many worshippers there are at the feet of Raghupati, the Lord of Raghus, including birds, beasts, gods, human beings, and demons, I adore the lotus feet of them all, who are disinterested servants of Sri Ram. Shuka, Sanaka, and others, that is Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, sage Narada, and all other eminent sages who are devotees of God and proficient in the spiritual lore, I make obeisance to all, placing my head on the ground. Be gracious to me, O Lord of ascetics, knowing me as your servant. Janaki, daughter of Janaka, and mother of the universe, and the most beloved consort of Sri Ram, the fountain of mercy, I seek to propitiate the pair of her lotus feet, so that by her grace I may be blessed with a refined intellect. Again, I adore in thought, word, and deed the lotus feet of the all-worthy Lord of Raghus, who has lotus-like eyes and wields a bow and arrows, and who relieves the distress of his devotees and affords delight to them. I reverence the feet of Sita and Ram, who, though stated to be different, are yet identical, just like a word and its meaning, or like water and the waves on its surface, and to whom the afflicted are most dear. I greet the name Ram, the chief of the Raghus, which is composed of seed letters, representing the fire god, the sun god, and the moon god. So Ram, if you set it in three parts, it would be Ra, A, and Ma. Ra representing the fire god, A representing the sun god, and Ma representing the moon god. It is the same as Brahma, the creative aspect of God, Vishnu, his preservative aspect, and Shiva, the disintegrating aspect. And the vital breaths of the Vedas, it is attributeless, peerless, and a mine of virtues. It is the great spell which Lord Maheshwara mutters, and which, when imparted by him at Kashi, the modern-day Varanasi, leads to emancipation. Its glory is known to Lord Ganesha, who is worshipped before all others as a glory of the name. The oldest poet Valmiki is acquainted with the glory of the name, inasmuch as he attained to purity by repeating it in the reverse order. Hearing the verdict of Lord Shiva that the name is as good as 1,000 other names of God, Goddess Bhavani, that is Parvati, dined with her consort after uttering it only once. Noticing such partiality of her heart for the name, Hara, or Lord Shiva, made that lady, who was the ornament of her sex, the ornament of his own person, that is, made her a part of his own being by assigning to her the left half of his body. Shiva knows fully well the power of the name, due to which deadly poison served the purpose of nectar to him. Devotion to the Lord of Raghus is, as it were, the rainy season, and the noble devotees, says Tulsi Das, represent the paddy crop, while the two charming syllables of the name Ram, Ra and Ma, stand for the 2 months of Shravana and Bhadrapad, roughly corresponding to July and August in the solar calendar. Both the letter sounds, Ra and Ma, are sweet and attractive. They are the two eyes, as it were, of the alphabet, and the very life of the devotee. Easy to remember and delightful to one and all, they bring gain here and provide sustenance hereafter. They are most delightful to utter, hear, and remember, and are dear as Ram and Lakshman to Tulsi Das. When treated separately, the two letters lose their harmony, that is, are pronounced differently, bear diverse meaning in the form of seed letters, and as such yield different results. Whereas they are naturally allied even as Brahma, the cosmic spirit, and Jiva, the individual soul, good brothers like the divine sages Nara and Narayana, they are sustainers of the universe and redeemers of the devotee in particular. They are beautiful ornaments for the ears of the fair damsel in the form of bhakti, devotion, and stand as spotless sun and moon for the good of the world. They are like the taste and the gratifying quality of nectar in the form of emancipation, and are supporters of the globe like the divine tortoise, and the serpent god Sesha. Again, they are like the bees for the beautiful lotus in the shape of devotee's mind, and are the very like of Hari, that is Sri Krishna, or Haladara, Balarama, who wielded a plough as a weapon, and Yashoda, their foster mother, the wife of Nanda, in the shape of the tongue. Lo, the two letters, Ra and Ma, forming the part of the name of Raghuvara, the chief of Raghu, crown all the letters of the alphabet, the one spreading like an umbrella, and the other resting as a crest jewel, O Tulsi Das. The name and object named, though similar in significance, are allied as master and servant to the other. That is to say, even though there is complete identity between God and his name, the former closely follows the latter, even as a servant follows his master. The Lord appears in person at the very mention of his name. Name and form are the two attributes of God. Both of them are ineffable and beginningless, and can be rightly understood only by means of good intelligence. It is presumptuous on one's part to declare as to which is superior or inferior. Talking about the name and the form. Hearing the distinctive merits of both, pious souls will judge for themselves. Forms are found to be subordinate to the name. Without the name, you cannot come up to the knowledge of a form. Typical forms cannot be identified, even if they be in your hand, without knowing their name. And if the name is remembered, even without seeing the form, the latter flashes on the mind with a special liking for it. The mystery of name and form is a tale which cannot be told. Though delightful to comprehend, it cannot be described in words. Between the unqualified absolute and qualified divinity, the name is a good intermediary. It is a clever interpreter, revealing the truth of both. Install the luminous gem in the shape of the divine name Ram on the threshold of the tongue, at the doorway of your mouth, if you will have lit both inside and outside, O Tulsi Das. Yogi or mystics who are full of dispassion and wholly detached from God's creation keep awake in the daylight of wisdom, muttering the name of with their tongue, and enjoy the felicity of Brahma, the Absolute, which is incomparable, unspeakable, unmixed with sorrow, and devoid of name and form. Even though seekers of truth, who aspire to know the mysterious ways of providence and are able to comprehend them by muttering the name, strivers, hankering after worldly achievements, repeat the name, absorbed in contemplation, and become accomplished, acquiring superhuman powers such as that of becoming infinitely small in size. If devotees in distress mutter the name, their worst calamities of the gravest type disappear and they become happy. In this world there are 4 kinds of devotees of Sri Ram. All the 4 of them are virtuous, sinless, and noble. All the 4, clever as they are, rely upon the name. Of these, the enlightened devotee is especially dear to the Lord. The glory of the name is supreme in all 4 yugas and all 4 Vedas, particularly in the Kali age, in which there is no other means of salvation. Even those who are free from all desires and absorbed in the joy of devotion to Sri Ram and have thrown their heart as fish into the nectarine lake of supreme affection for the name. There are 2 aspects of God, the one unqualified and the other qualified, aguna and saguna. Both these aspects are unspeakable, unfathomable, without beginning and without parallel. To my mind, greater than both is the name that has established its rule over both by its might. Friends should not take this as a bold assertion on the part of the servant. I record my mind's own conviction, love and liking. The 2 aspects of Brahma, God, should be recognized as akin to fire. The one, that is the Absolute, represents fire which is latent in wood, while the other, qualified divinity, corresponds to that which is externally visible. Though both are inaccessible by themselves, they are easily attainable through the name. Therefore, I have called the name greater than Brahma and Sri Ram both. Brahma, God, is one, all-pervading and imperishable. He is all truth, consciousness, and a compact mass of joy. Even though such immutable Lord is present in every heart, all beings in this world are nonetheless miserable and unhappy. Though the practice of the name preceded by its true appraisement, however, the same Brahma reveals itself even as the value of a jewel is revealed by its correct knowledge. The glory of the name is thus infinitely greater than that of the Absolute. I shall show below how in my judgment the name is superior even to Sri Ram. For the sake of his devotees, Sri Ram assumed the form of a human being, and suffering calamities himself brought relief to the pious. By fondly repeating his name, on the other hand, devotees easily became abodes of joy and blessings. Sri Ram himself redeemed a single woman, Ahalya, the wife of an ascetic, while his name corrected the error of crores of wicked souls. For the sake of sage Vishwamitra, Sri Ram wrought the destruction of Suketu's daughter, Tadaka, with her army and son Subahu, while his name puts an end to the devotee's vain hopes along with his errors and sorrows, even as the sun terminates night. In his own person, Sri Ram broke the bow of Shiva, while the very glory of his name dispels the fear of rebirth. The Lord restored the charm of Dandaka forest alone, while his name purified the mind of countless devotees. The delighter of Raghus, that is Sri Ram, crushed only a host of demons, while his name uproots all the impurities of the Kali age. The Lord of Raghus conferred immortality only on faithful servants like Shabari, the celebrated Bila woman, and the vulture Jatayu. While his name has delivered innumerable wretches, the tale of its virtues is well known in the Vedas. As is well known to all, Sri Ram extended his protection to 2 devotees only, that is Sugriva and Vibhishana. His name, on the other hand, has showered its grace on numerous humble souls. This superb glory of the name shines forth in the world as well as in the Vedas. Sri Ram collected an army of bears and monkeys and took no little pains over the construction of a bridge to connect the mainland with the island of Lanka. Through the repetition of his name, however, the ocean of mundane existence itself gets dried up. Let the wise bear this in his mind. Sri Ram killed in battle Ravana with all his family and returned to his own city with Sita. He was crowned the king in the capital of Ayodhya, while gods and sages sang his glories in choicest phrases. His servants are, however, able to conquer the formidable army of error by fondly remembering his name and, absorbed in devotion, move about in joy which is peculiarly their own. By the grace of the name, they know not sorrow even in dream. The name is thus greater than Brahma and Sri Ram both, and confers blessings even on the bestowers of boons. Knowing this in his heart, the great Lord Shiva chose his word, Ram, for himself out of Sri Ram's story comprising 100 crore verses. That's about 1 billion verses. By the grace of the name alone, Lord Shambhu, that is Shiva, is immortal, and though endowed with inauspicious paraphernalia, such as the wrath of skulls, is yet a storehouse of blessings. Again, it is by the grace of the name of Lord alone that Siddhas, or adepts, sages, and yogis like Sukha, Sanaka, and others enjoy divine raptures. Narada realized the glory of his name, and that is why, while Sri Hari is beloved to the world, and Hara is dear to Sri Hari, he, that is Narada, is dear to Hara and Hara, Vishnu and Shiva, both. It was because of his repeating the name that the Lord bestowed his grace on Prahlad, who thereby became the crest jewel of devotees. Dhruva, repeating the name of Sri Hari with a feeling of indignation at the harsh treatment received from his stepmother, and thereby attained a fixed and incomparable station in the heavens. It is by remembering the holy name that Hanuman, the son of wind god, holds Sri Ram under his thumb. The vile, Ajamila, and even the celebrated elephant and the harlot of the legend were liberated by the power of Sri Hari's name. I have no words to depict the glory of the name. Not even Sri Ram can adequately glorify it. The name of Ram is a wish-yielding tree, the very home of beatitude in this age of Kali, by remembering which Tulsi Das, the poet himself, was transformed from an intoxicating drug like the hemp plant into holy basil. Not only in this age of Kali, but in all the 4 ages, at all times, past, present, and future, in all 3 spheres, that is heaven, earth, and the subterranean region, creatures have been rid of grief by repeating the name. The verdict of the Vedas and the Puranas, as well as of saints, is just this: that love of Ram, or the name Ram, is the reward of all virtuous acts. In the first age, through meditation, the second age through sacrifice, and in the third age, Dwapara Yuga, the Lord is propitiated through worship. This age of Kali, however, is simply corrupt and the root of all impurities, where the mind of man wallows like a fish in the ocean of sin. In this terrible age, the name alone is the wish-yielding tree, the very thought of which puts an end to all illusions of the world. The name of Ram is the bestower of one's desired object in this age of Kali. It is beneficent in the other world and one's father and mother in this world. In Kali Yuga, neither karma, action, nor bhakti, devotion, nor again jnana, knowledge, avail. The name of Ram is the only resort. The age of Kali is, as it were, the demons of Kalanemi, the repository of all wiles, whereas the name is the wise and mighty Hanuman. To reference another metaphor, the name of Ram is, as it were, the Lord manifested as a man-lion in the age of Kali, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Crushing this enemy of gods, the name will protect the devotees repeating it, even as the man-lion protected Prahlad. The name repeated either with good or evil intentions is in an angry mood or even while yawning, diffuses joy in all 10 directions. Remembering that name and bowing to my head to the Lord of Raghus, I proceed to recount the virtues of Sri Ram. He whose grace is never tired of showing its goodwill to others will mend my errors in every way. Ram, a noble lord and a poor servant like myself, yet true to his own disposition, that storehouse of compassion has fostered me. In the world as well as in the Vedas, we observe the following characteristic in a good master. That is, that he comes to recognize one's devotion to him as soon as he hears one's prayer. Rich or poor, rustic or urban, learned or unlettered, of good repute or bad, a good poet or a bad one, all men and women extol the king according to his or her light. And the pious, sensible, amiable, and supremely compassionate ruler who takes his descent from a Iragnest of God greets all with sweet words, hearing their compliments and appraising their composition, devotion, supplication, and conduct. Such is the way of earthly monarchs, to say nothing of the Lord of Koshala, Sri Ram, who is the crest jewel of wise men. Sri Ram gets pleased with unalloyed love, but who is duller and more impure of mind than in this world than I. The benevolent Ram will nonetheless respect the devotion and pleasure of this wicked servant, Sri Ram, who made barks out of rocks and wise counselors out of monkeys and bears. Everybody calls me a servant of the Lord, and I myself claim to be one. And Sri Ram puts up with the scoffing remark that a master like Sita's Lord has a servant like Tulsi Das. My presumption and error are indeed very great, hearing the tale of my sins. Even hell has scarnet at them. I shudder to think of it due to my assumed fears, while Sri Ram took no notice of them even in a dream. The Lord, on the other hand, applauded my devotion and spirit of hearing of, perceiving and scanning them with the mind's eye. If there is anything good in one's heart, it is marred by the telling, for Sri Ram is pleased to note what is there in the devotee's mind. The Lord never cherishes in his mind the lapse, if any, or on part of a devotee, while he remembers the latter spirit 100 times. For instance, the very chime of which he had killed Vali, the monkey king of Kishkinda, even as a huntsman, was repeated in the misdemeanor perpetrated by Sugriva. Vibhishana too was guilty of the same offense, but Sri Ram took no cognizance of it even in a dream. The hero of Raghu's clan, on the other hand, honored them both at his meeting with Bharata on his return from Lanka and recommended them in open court. While the Lord sat at the foot of trees, the monkeys perched themselves high on the boughs. Such insolent creatures he exalted to his own position. There is no Lord so generous as Sri Ram, O Tulsi Das. Your goodness, O Ram, is beneficent to all. If this is a fact, Tulsi Das too will be blessed by the same. Thus revealing my merits and demerits, and bowing my head once more to all, I proceed to sing the immaculate glory of the chief of Raghus, by hearing which the impurities of the Kali age are wiped away. The charming story which Yajnavalkya related to the good sage Bharadwaja, I shall repeat the same dialogue at length. Let all good souls hear it with a feeling of delight. This ravishing tale was conceived by Shambhu, that is Lord Shiva, who graciously communicated it to his consort Uma Parvati. Shiva imparted it once more to Kakabushundi, a sage in the form of crow. Knowing him to be a devotee of Sri Ram and one qualified to hear it, and it was Yajnavalkya who received it from the latter, Kakabushundi, and narrated it to Bharadwaj. Both these, the listener, Bharadwaja, and the reciter, Yajnavalkya, are equally virtuous. They view all alike and are acquainted with the pastimes of Sri Hari. Like a remblic myrobalan fruit placed on one's palm, they hold the past, present, and future within their knowledge. Besides these, other enlightened devotees of Sri Hari too recite, hear, and understand this story in diverse ways. Then I heard the same story in the holy Sukarakshetra, the modern Sorone in the western United Provinces, from my preceptor. But as I had no sense in those days of my childhood, I could not follow it fully well. Both the listener and the reciter of the mysterious story of Sri Ram must be repositories of wisdom. How then could I, a dull and stupid creature, steeped in the impurities of the Kali age, expected to follow it? Nevertheless, when the preceptor repeated the story time after time, I followed it to a certain extent, according to my poor lights. I shall versify the same in the popular tongue, so that my mind may derive satisfaction from it. Equipped with what little intellectual and critical power I possess, I shall write with a heart inspired by Sri Hari. The story I am going to tell is as such as will dispel my own doubts, errors, and delusion, and will serve as a boat for crossing the stream of mundane existence. The story of Ram is a solace to the learned, and a source of delight to all men, and wipes out the impurities of the Kali age. Sri Ram's story is a peahen for the serpent in the form of the Kali age. Again, it's a wooden stick for kindling the sacred fire of wisdom. The tale of Ram is the cow plenty in this age of Kali. It is a beautiful life-giving herb for the virtuous. It is a veritable river of nectar on the surface of this globe. It shatters the fear of birth and death, and is a virtual snake for the frog of delusion. It is beneficent to pious souls, even as goddess Parvati, the daughter of Himavan, is friendly to gods. Again, it puts an end to hell, even as Parvati exterminated the army of demons. It flows from the assemblage of saints, even as Lakshmi, the goddess of wealth, sprang from the ocean, and like the immovable earth, it bears the burden of the entire creation. Like the sacred river Yamuna, in this world it scares away the messengers of Yama, the god of death. It is Kashi, as it were, for the liberation of souls. It is dear to Ram as the sacred basil plant, and is truly beneficent to Tulsi Das Ji and his own mother, Hulasi. It is beloved of Lord Shiva as the river Narmada, which has its source in Mount Mekala, a peak of Amarakantaka hills. It is a mine of all attainments as well as of happiness and prosperity. It is to noble qualities what Mother Aditi is to gods. It is the culmination, as it were, of devotion to and love for Sri Ram. The story of Sri Ram is the river Mandakini, which washes the foot at Chitrakoot. A guileless heart is Mount Chitrakoot, one of the happy resorts of Sri Ram during his wanderings in the forest. While pure love, says Tulsi Das, is the woodland in which Sita and Ram carry on their divine pastimes. The narrative of Ram is a lovely wish-yielding gem and a graceful adornment for saintly wisdom. The hosts of virtues possessed by Sri Ram and a blessing to the world, and the bestowers of liberation, riches, religious merit, and the divine abode. They are the true teachers of wisdom, dispassion, and yoga. Yoga meaning contemplative union with God, and celestial physicians, Ashwini Kumaras, for the fell disease of metempsychosis, parents of devotion to Sri Ram and Sita, and seed of all holy vows, practices, and observances, antidotes for sins, agonies, and griefs for beloved guardians in this as well as in the next world. Valiant ministers to King Reason and a veritable Agastya, drinking up the illimitable ocean of greed, young lions residing in the forest of the devotee's mind to kill the herds of elephants in the shape of lust, anger, and impurities of the Kali age. Dear to Lord Shiva, the slayer of demon Tripura, as a highly respectable and most beloved guest, and wish-yielding clouds quenching the wildfire of indignance. They are spells and valuable gems, as it were, for counteracting the venom of serpents in the form of sensuous enjoyments, and efface the deep marks of evil destiny contained on the forehead. They are sunbeams, as it were, dispelling the darkness of ignorance, and clouds nourishing the paddy crop in the form of devotees. The trees of paradise, as it were, yielding the object of one's desire, easily available for service and gratifying like Vishnu and Shiva. Stars, as it were, adorning the autumnal sky in the shape of the poet's mind. And the very life's treasure for the devotees of Sri Ram, a rich harvest of enjoyments, as it were yielded by the totality of one's meritorious deeds and sincerely devoted to the good of the world like holy men, sporting in the mind of the devotees as swans in the Manasarovar lake, and purifying as the waves of the holy Ganga. The hosts of virtues possessed by Sri Ram are like a blazing fire to consume the dry wood of evil ways. Fallacious reasoning, mischievous practices, deceit, hypocrisy, and heresy prevailing in Kali. The exploits of Sri Ram are delightful to one and all, even as the rays of the full moon. They are particularly agreeable and highly beneficial to the mind of the virtuous, who can be compared to the white water lily and the chakora bird. I shall now relate at some length the seed of the story, that is, how goddess Bhavani, or Parvati, questioned Lord Shankara, and how the latter answered her questions, weaving a strange narrative around this episode. Let no one who should happen not to hear this anecdote before be surprised to hear it. Wise men who hear this uncommon legend marvel not, for they know there is no limit to the stories of Sri Ram in this world. They are convinced in their heart that Sri Ram has embodied himself forth in diverse ways, and that Ramayana, though consisting of 1,000 million verses, is yet infinite. Great sages have diversely sung the charming stories of Sri Hari, relating, as they do, to different kalpas or cycles. Bearing this in mind, the reader should not entertain any doubt and should hear this narrative reverently and with devotion. Ram is infinite, infinite as his virtues, and the dimension of his story are also immeasurable. Those whose thoughts are pure will, therefore, feel no surprise when they hear it. Putting away all doubts in this way and placing on my head the dust from the lotus feet of my preceptor, I supplicate all with joined palms once more, so that no blame may be attached to the telling of the story. Reverently bowing my head to Lord Shiva, I now proceed to recount the fair virtues of Sri Ram. Placing my head on the feet of Sri Hari, I commence the story in the Samvat year 1631. On Tuesday, the 9th of the lunar month of Chaitra, the story shed its luster at Ayodhya. On this day of Sri Ram's birth, the presiding spirits of all holy places flocked there. So declare the Vedas, and demons, nagas, birds, human beings, sages, and gods come and pay their homage to the Lord of Raghus. Wise men celebrate the great birthday festival and sing the sweet glory of Sri Ram. Numerous groups and pious men take dip in the holy water of the Saryu river, and visualizing in their heart the beautiful swarthy form of Sri Ram, mutter his name. The very sight and touch of the Saryu, a dip into its waters, or a drought from its cleanses one's sins, so declare the Vedas and the Puranas. Even Sharada, the goddess of learning, with her pure intelligence, cannot describe the infinite glory of this most sacred river. The beautiful town of Ayodhya grants an abode in Sri Ram's heaven. It is celebrated through all the worlds and is the holiest of the holy. There are countless living beings in this world belonging to the four species, that is, viviparous, oviparous, sweat-born, and those shooting from the earth. Whoever of these shed their mortal coil in Ayodhya are never born again. Knowing the town to be charming in every way, a bestower of all forms of success and a storehouse of blessings. I commenced writing this sacred story there. The impulses of lust, arrogance, and hypocrisy positively disappear from the mind of those who hear it. One derives solace by hearing its very name, Ramcharitmanas, the Manas lake of Sri Ram's exploits. The elephant of our mind, which is being scorched by the wildfire of sensuous enjoyments, is sure to get relief should it drop into this lake. The holy and beautiful Ramcharitmanas is the delight of sages. It was conceived by Shambhu, Lord Shiva. It puts down the three kinds of error, sorrow and indignance, and uproots all evil practices and impurities of the Kali age. Having conceived it, the great Lord Shiva treasured it in his mind till Shiva, or Parvati, got a favorable opportunity presented itself, and he communicated it to his consort Shiva. Therefore, after due consideration, Lord Hara, or Shiva, joyously gave it the excellent title of Ramcharitmanas. I repeat the same delightful and charming story. Hear it reverently and attentively, O noble souls. Invoking Uma, or goddess Parvati, and Lord Shiva, who has a bull emblazoned on his standard, I now proceed to give a full account as to what Ramcharitmanas is like, how it came to be, and what led to its popularity in the world. By the grace of Shambhu, Lord Shiva, a blessed idea inspired the mind of Tulsi Das, which made him the author of Ramcharitmanas. The author had polished his composition to the best of his intellect, yet listened to it with a sympathetic mind, O noble souls, and correct it. A refined, a sattvika, intellect is the catchment area, heart is the fathomless cavity, the Vedas and the Puranas constitute the ocean, while holy men represent the clouds which rain down pure, sweet, agreeable, and blessed water in the form of Sri Rama's excellent glory. Pastimes of a personal God that such holy men narrate in extenso are the transparency of this water, which cleanses all impurity while loving devotion, which defies all description, represents its sweetness and coolness. This water is beneficial for the paddy crop in the form of virtuous deeds. It is life itself to the devotees of Sri Ram. The same holy water, when it dropped on the soil of intellect, flowed in a volume through the beautiful channel of the ears, and collectively in the lovely spot called the heart, came to be stationary. Having remained there for a long time, it became clear, agreeable, cool, and refreshing. Om. So that concludes the second reading of the Ramcharitmanas. And we'll continue to read for a year. And next week we'll continue where we left off with the Balakand, or the first Adhyay of the Sri Ramcharitmanas. Jai Shri Ramchandra Ki Jai.
ग्राम पवन सुत आए, भगत भरत को वचन सुनाए। लंका से आए हैं राम, पतित पावन सीता। अवधपुरी रघुनंदन आए, मंदिर मंदिर मंगल छाए। माताओं को किया प्रणाम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
भाई भरत को गले लगाया, सिंहासन बैठे रघुराया। जग ने कहा पतित पावन सीताराम।
सब भूमि विप्रों को दीन्ही, विप्रों ने वापस दे दीन्ही। हम तो भजन करेंगे राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
धोबी ने धोबन धमकाई, रामचंद्र ने यह सुन पाई। वन में सीता भेजी राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
वाल्मीकि आश्रम में आई, लव और कुश जन्मे दो भाई। धीर वीर ज्ञानी बलवान, पतित पावन सीताराम।
अश्वमेध यज्ञ कीन्हा राम, सीता बिनु सब सुने काम। लव कुश वहाँ लियो पहचान, पतित पावन सीताराम।
सीताराम बिना कुलाई, धरती से ये विनय सुनाई। मुझको अब दीजो विश्राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
सीता भूमि माहि समाई, देख करी चिंता रघुराई। बार बार पछताए राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
राम राज्य में सब सुख पावे, प्रेम मगन हो हरि गुण गावे। दुख क्लेश का रहा न नाम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
11,000 वर्ष पर्यंता, राजकीन्ह श्री लक्ष्मी कंता। फिर बैकुंठ पधारे राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
अवधपुरी बैकुंठ सिधाई, नर नारी सब ने गति पाई। शरणागत प्रतिपालक राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
श्याम सुंदर ने लीला गाई, मेरी विनय सुनो रघुराई। भूलो नहीं तुम्हारा नाम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम। रघुपति राघव राजा राम, पतित पावन सीताराम।
यह माला पूरी हुई, मन का 108। मनोकामना पूर्ण हो, नित्य करे जो पाठ। प्रभु दर्शन बिन मन की पीड़ा, तन पीड़ा से दूनी है। प्रभु दर्शन बिन मन की पीड़ा, तन पीड़ा से दूनी है। दर्शन दे दो हे रघुराई, दर्शन दे दो हे रघुराई। मन की अयोध्या सुनी है, सुनी है। प्रभु दर्शन बिन मन की पीड़ा, तन पीड़ा से दूनी है। आज घिरी ये कंचन काया, झूठी जग की माया में। आज घिरी ये कंचन काया, जग की माया में। सच्चे सुख की आस लिए मन, भटके छल की छाया में। काम क्रोध मद लोभ मोह ने, काम क्रोध लोभ मोह ने तन में रमाई धूनी है, धूनी है। प्रभु दर्शन बिन मन की पीड़ा, तन पीड़ा से प्रभु आठों पहर मैं चाहूं, दर्श तुम्हारे ही पाऊं। हे प्रभु आठों पहर मैं चाहूं, दर्श तुम्हारे ही पाऊं। मन को वश में कर पाऊं और शरण तुम्हारी मैं आऊं। श्रद्धा और समर्पण की मुझे, श्रद्धा समर्पण की मुझे नई ऊंचाई छूनी है, छूनी है। प्रभु दर्शन बिन मन की पीड़ा, तन पीड़ा से दूनी है। दर्शन